Is the NFL asking too much from the Kansas City Chiefs? And how much money is Sam Darnold going to make this offseason? Hey, everyone, welcome to NFL This Week. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Paul Chapman. And Paul, NFL fans and observers talk a lot about how the Kansas City Chiefs always seem to get their way. But over the next 11 days, the Chiefs will be playing 3 times, causing quarterback Patrick Mahomes to say it's not a good feeling. You never want to play this amount of games in this short of time. It's not great for your body. All true, but I think most people look at this Chiefs team and maybe aren't feeling too sympathetic about this squad. But what do you make of the situation that they're going to be in here for the next couple of weeks?
Well, first of all, absolutely zero sympathy, none, nada, zilch, forget it. This is a very small point, but because they've won the Super Bowl in the last several years, they benefit from the Thursday night opening. So they play the short week game without having the short week coming out of training camp. And then they get a 10-day break before they go into their second game. So this does have a tendency to even out. Plus, when someone has won as much as they've won, you never have any sympathy about anything. And they do tend to get the benefit of the doubt with the referees. Now, I'm not suggesting that there's any sort of a conspiracy, but I do think that there's a bias towards certain quarterbacks, certain coaches, certain teams. And while I don't necessarily believe it's mandated or forced, everyone knows that you want box office. Chiefs, by the way, happen to be probably the worst one loss team that I've ever seen. They are scraping by the skin of their teeth every week, but I believe that's part of their championship pedigree. And you are going to see them in the playoffs again. Can they flip the switch? They've got some serious issues on that offensive line. They're actually we focus on Kelsey and Mahomes, but they're more of a defensive team at this point. I would say, is a strength that carries them. And, I do think they'd be a bit jaded from winning so much. So I'm not necessarily surprised that they're winning all these close games against bad teams. But I do think they'll still be a handful in the playoffs. I mean, let's face it, they've got the experience. They know what to do when it matters. And being at home is going to aid them. So, you know what? I think they can suck it up and play 3 games in 11 days. The one thing that is interesting about it, Rob, though, is they talk about an 18th game. The owners want another week of TV revenue. You'll probably build a second buy into that. But there are a lot of teams that struggle when they have a Thursday game or a Monday game. They really do abuse a lot of these players just to get the TV revenue. So the Chiefs are having to go through it. A lot of other teams have gone through it as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that other teams have had to deal with this as well. So it's not exactly a situation that is foreign for some
They, they've
teams, but
they've already won their division too, and
yeah.
they do play the Steelers, which would be a big game, but they have the luxury to rest a couple of players here too.
Yep, we'll see how it goes for Patrick Mahomes and company. Speaking of quarterbacks, after being named one of the players of the week, there's a lot of chatter now about Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold and what he could be in store for this offseason when he becomes a free agent. It's been a pretty remarkable turnaround, Paul, for a guy who's still just 27 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. But if you were a team looking for a new quarterback this offseason, say, I don't know, the New York Jets, how interested would you be in a guy like Sam Darnold?
Well, I think you have to be interested. The Jets are a fascinating case that they went all in on Aaron Rodgers, as we know. Rodgers is talking about coming back next year, perhaps not even with the Jets, so he does say that's his first preference. I think the Jets would be crazy to bring him back, but they have structured themselves with a lot of older talent to appease Rodgers, which makes me believe that you might want to get a quarterback who can help you win now. I think more if there are multiple bidders, I'm not sure Darnold would want to revisit that, considering the way things went from in New York and the way things have panned out. But absolutely, will he be someone that will be courted? I look at a team like Atlanta, and they've got Penix sitting on the bench. What are they going to do with Kirk Cousins? There are some very intriguing quarterbacks in the draft to take. But you only have to look at a guy like Mac Jones to understand that, or even stay on the Jets, Zach Wilson, that young quarterbacks with a lot of hype can kind of flutter out of one system and maybe do well if given a chance somewhere else. Darnold was patient, Carolina, San Francisco, and this was a situation that worked for him. I will say, I think Kevin O'Connell is such a quarterback guru, and that's I don't know if friendly is a fair word, but it's because I don't want to diminish Darnold's attributes and what he's managed to achieve this season. But he was a top 3 draft pick for a reason. I think the kid has talent, and I think if you're a coach that has a view as to how you can use him as they've done in Minnesota, then absolutely, I think there's going to be a bunch of teams throwing money at him, and good for him. And he is 27. I don't think it's a case where it'd be like, well, we're unsure how JJ McCarthy's going to do, so maybe sign a 1-year deal back with us, Minnesota. I think he's going to want a long-term contract and some security out of this now, and he's earned it this year.
Yeah, this might be his last chance if he kind of reverts back to the player he was before. So maybe now's the time to cash in for a guy like Sam Darnold. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Paul Chapman, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next week.